This is the 2025 Subaru Forester, which is getting a brand new generation here for the 2025 model year. And in this video, I'm going to cover the exterior, the interior, take it for a drive and see what it's like out on the road, as well as talking about the fuel economy you can expect, and then the pricing and how it compares to the competition. So as far as the 2025 Forester goes, well, it's grown a little bit. So it's about a half an inch longer and about a half an inch wider than before, but otherwise it's pretty much the same dimensionally. And the one thing that is definitely very different is the styling, which is controversial. Styling is subjective, so I won't weigh in too much here, but I think the front end shares a little too much styling with the Ford Explorer, and I don't love these bronze accents you get here on this Sport version. You might like it. If you do, that's great. But, you know, it just is unfortunate that, you know, with this segment being so competitive that they weren't able to do something a little more distinctive with the styling. And I mean, they tried, you know, you have these little like fender vents here on the, you know, front fenders. And, you know, again, more of those bronze accents, which either doubles down on the look if you like that, or makes this even more repulsive if you're someone like myself that does not think the bronze wheels and the bronze accents do this any favors. But otherwise, you know, one thing, you have the very tall greenhouse here still, and you have some new little flourishes like the little all-wheel drive badge that's built into the D-pillar back there now, and you also will see you have the new taillights in the back, new tailgate with Forester embossed in the back of it. And the back end looks fine to me, and you know, is, I'd say, more in line with Subaru's traditional styling language, but up front here it just could be mistaken for anything else. You could put a Ford badge there, you could put anything on there, and you know, it's a very generic look in my opinion, but the styling is what it is. Let's move on to the inside. The interior of the 2025 Forester is pretty nicely redone here. There's a lot of familiar Subaru stuff still though, and it's a lot of space. That is the one thing the Forester has going for it, but otherwise, you know, it's an okay interior. So first off, sitting down in these seats, you have these StarTex seats here in the Sport. You'll have cloth on lower trims and then actual leather on the upper trims here, and these ones are fine. Now these are new seats. They have more bolstering than before, and they're comfortable seats. The only thing I'll say is I wish they were perforated. Many of the competitors do offer perforation even at this price level, and with these ones not being perforated, it just means that in the summer here they don't breathe very well, and so your back and your, you know, lower half gets pretty warm sitting in these seats, and so don't love these. I'd honestly rather have cloth over non-perforated you know, vinyl like this. But, you know, otherwise, at least you have the bronze stitching and stuff to jazz it up a little bit. And they are heated seats. Cooled seats are available in upper trims, but here in this one, it's just heat. And anyway, you know, comfortable seats, but I would just change the upholstery. Next though is the steering wheel here, which is the usual cluttered Subaru wheel. Same wheel you see in anything else in Subaru these days, and so it means you have like buttons for your source, for your drive mode selector that no one's going to use. Honestly, I think they can even throw out the paddle shifters because I'm sure hardly any Forester owners use those either. But, yeah, so there's a lot of buttons here. Once you figure them out, it's not the end of the world. You can ignore, you know, half of them, but just a little more cluttered, and other competitors just do it better, honestly. It's also not a heated steering wheel, and a lot of the other competitors do offer a heated wheel at this price level as well. So another unfortunate thing there, but it has a nice 9-3 grip and little 10 and 2 notches, and it's fine. Otherwise, the gauges are another thing that is fine, but not impressive when you look at the competition. You have analog gauges, which is rare these days, and if you are someone who prefers analog over digital, this could actually be a really nice perk. There's nothing wrong with the gauges. There's just, you know, basically no customization. It just shows you the usual information you're used to seeing on any other vehicle in the past, you know, 50 years or so. I mean, you have your MPG there and a couple other things, but, you know, with everything else these days having these big, beautiful displays with all kinds of customization and different things that can display information-wise, this just, you know, isn't competitive these days. It's just that simple. Moving over to the center of the dashboard, one area where Subaru did try harder to compete is with this 11.6-inch touchscreen, but I mean, that's going to come down to how you feel about the touchscreen doing basically everything. You do have hard buttons here for your climate and volume and tune knobs, which are appreciated, but even like your heated seat controls are in the, you know, menu here, and pulling up other more advanced climate control stuff is buried in a sub menu. And that would be okay if the system were pretty snappy, but this system, which they introduced back with the 2020 Outback, still is pretty sluggish here, and you will see as I'm navigating through some stuff, there's a few seconds there before it loads up, and it's just not super fluid, you know, especially whenever you first get in this vehicle, you know, for the first time for that day. But even once it's warmed up, it's still not the fastest. It does have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, which is, you know, nice to have, and you have that little bar there at the top to, you know, give you some other stuff, including your drive mode selector. But, you know, this system is okay, I guess. Honestly, I prefer some of the smaller screens than the other other competitors that are snappier and higher resolution and a little bit nicer with their menu setups. And, you know, outside of the CarPlay, I mean, there's not a whole lot there other than just showing you, you know, your radio info and, you know, a few other basic things, but no navigation built in or anything like that here in this Sport trim. Also available in this Sport is this $1,700 option package that also gives you, along with rear automatic braking, it gives you this Harman Kardon stereo, which is 11 speakers. It's about 576 watts of power, I believe, and it's actually really good sounding. That is one thing I can give a good compliment on for the Forester here, is it's a really nice sounding stereo. Very clear, crisp vocals, good bass, and actually a pretty well done stereo. And then moving beyond the screen here, you know, you do have like this cool pattern on the passenger side, which I appreciate, but there's not a lot of storage space in this interior. That is one other area. Compact SUVs are usually like the Swiss Army knife of having a ton of different storage areas, and there's just not much here. I mean, you have, you know, a decent sized pocket in the door with a bottle holder, but honestly, it's kind of a small bottle holder as well. In the middle here, you just have a shallow wireless charging pad area, and this wireless charging pad also has zero effort put into it. I mean, it's smooth. Your phone is not going to stay on here. It's going to be sliding all over the place and probably won't charge very well, if at all. And most others just do a wireless charging pad better with, you know, some rubbery stuff or some brackets or something to try and hold your phone in place a little better. This makes no such effort. And again, it's just so shallow that even if you don't get the wireless charging pad, you're not going to have a whole lot of space in there. Anyway, you will see a USB-A and USB-C jack there, as well as an auxiliary jack, which is funny to see that front and center. A lot of other companies don't even offer that anymore, but nice you have that. And then you just have your two cup holders and a tiny little slot behind that. But I mean, most others have like huge bins these days and, you know, just well thought out cargo solutions that you don't have here in this. You do have a center armrest, which is nice and softly padded. And then you open that up and it's, you know, fairly deep, but honestly also not bigger than, you know, most of the others in this segment. Actually smaller than some, I'd say. And so just kind of very underwhelming. I think they could have done a whole lot more here and tried to open this up a little bit more. But as it is, you know, it's just, I guess, average at best. Moving on to the back seat, you know, one thing that is really nice and spacious is the back seat area. It is a lot of legroom. I'm 5'9", be sitting behind myself. I have several inches of legroom to spare, but with this huge moonroof, which is really a standout because it really is bigger. I mean, it goes like halfway into the back seat there with how large it opens, and it is an opening moonroof, by the way, as well. But with that, it really drops your headroom. So, I mean, you can see how the roof really drops down. And again, maybe just being 5'9", I have only a couple inches of headroom to spare. So I honestly think headroom maybe took a downgrade for this generation as a concession for, you know, trying to make this bigger roof here. So I'd say if you want the most headroom in the back or in the front for that matter, skip, you know, the models with the moonroof if you can. It's also got a full down center armrest back there and dedicated air vents up front here with a USB-A and USB-C jacks there once again. Heated rear seats are available on, I believe, the top trim, but you can't get them here on the Sport. And there's just pockets in those doors as well. Moving on to the cargo space area here, the one big news for 2025 is that you now have a kick-to-open tailgate that's available here. It's something you get on this Sport trim, and you can get it on higher trims as well. But as far as the cargo space itself, it's 28 cubic feet here, and you know, it's pretty decent. You have a little cutout there on the left. It's a pretty wide and long space. Again, average for this segment, but I don't think it's, you know, anything remarkable either. Beneath the floor, you don't really have much space, just a tiny little, you know, alcove there, and you also do have a spare tire underneath of that, which is nice to have a spare for sure. You know, so again, just average, and I think that applies to this entire interior. It's average at best. I mean, you could argue the screen size is slightly bigger than some of the others, but you know, it doesn't get you a whole lot, and honestly, just since it's so slow with the software, I just don't think that it's, you know, worth, you know, going for this screen. And it's also worth noting this screen is standard on everything except the base trim, where you get two 7-inch screens, which work the same way basically. And you know, there's no way to get normal controls or what you're used to in the prior gen Forester with the smaller little radio up top and physical controls for climate. That's all been done away with in favor of this screen, and I just wish they would put more investment into upgrading the speed of this screen and just trying to make it a little bit more impressive than it is. But let's start up and go for a drive. The Forester here has the usual Subaru key, nothing new there, but it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off here in the 2025 Forester. So the first thing you notice about this vehicle, I think the first thing that I notice is the visibility, which is definitely, I think, a standout among all the compact SUV competitors. I mean, you have just huge amounts of glass, a huge windshield, very thin A-pillar, a nice little window, and the mirror off onto the door. You know, great, huge side view here, and view out of the back is also really good. It's just unbeatable. And if you go for the top trim of the Forester, you also get a digital camera rearview mirror there, so that you have an unobstructed view no matter what you have in the back there. And so, you know, I mean, I'd say this is easier to drive, and I think will be better for sightseeing, be better for people that just, you know, want an airy feeling cabin. I think it's hard to beat the Forester, and that is, I think, one thing that maybe really sells a lot of people on the Forester is just that you have great visibility. You really feel like you're surrounded more by the outdoors, I think, in this than in many of the other competitors. Other things here to note, so they do have a new updated version of the Subaru Global platform here, which does give you 10% stiffer chassis rigidity, and they also have a thicker windshield now, they say, and more sound deadening. And so those things will all help to just give this a quieter, more refined ride and better ride quality. They say better handling as well. We will test out the handling here in a minute. But you know, other things here as we're coming up to a stop sign, you know, the brake is your typical Subaru brake pedal, which is very well done. It's very responsive. It starts to bite right towards the top of the pedal, but it's easy to modulate smoothly without being jerky, and really well done. Throttle response is also very good. It's the typical good Subaru response where, you know, it gets immediate response the second you put your foot down here, and you know, it doesn't hesitate to rev up here and give you the power that you're looking for, and it needs to rev up because you don't have a whole lot of power to work with here. So at least it's eager though, and I think the tuning certainly helps to maximize, you know, the meager power that you have here. But speaking of that power, we're gonna go ahead and put it up into the Sport Sharp mode in the SI drive, which is one of the things you get here with the Sport trim, which does give you, I think, just quicker throttle response. I don't think it really does much else. But we're gonna go and turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. And here we go. There we go. And it does these little like upshifts, you know, close to the very low red line of about 6,000 RPMs. And, you know, I mean, it's okay. It's fine. It's smooth. I will give it that. The Boxer motors haven't always been smooth. I think they definitely refined a little bit as far as the smoothness here for it. So it's not as coarse. It doesn't sound great still, but, you know, it's pretty smooth, and you know, combined with this smooth CVT, if smoothness is your #1 goal in a powertrain, I think this is actually pretty good, all things considered. So as far as the powertrain goes, though, it's a 2.5-liter Boxer 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated, same as the last generation. Actually, it has slightly less horsepower, 180 horsepower, 2 less than before, but 178 pound-feet of torque, which is 2 more than before. And that torque comes on a lot sooner. It used to not come on for full torque until 5,400 RPM. Really high for a torque for any vehicle, honestly. But now it comes on at an earlier 3,700 RPM. Still isn't great, but is better, and so an improvement nonetheless. But you know, when you ever look at some of the competitors like a Honda CR-V, which has a turbo, that gives you peak torque at probably like 2,000 RPMs or something. It comes in way earlier, way stronger, and gives you punchier performance around town than this will, with this thing having to rev to the moon and back in order to get you going anywhere. And I mean, a lot of the other competitors are still naturally aspirated as well, so there's no knock against natural aspiration. It's just that, you know, this motor, it just feels like it has to work pretty hard. Even when I was driving the family around a few days ago, my wife even commented like, man, this little thing is like really always working hard. It's like, yeah, I mean, even just climbing a hill in our neighborhood, I'm at 3,000 RPMs. You don't do that typically in any other crossover trying to climb a hill at 30 miles per hour. It just, I mean, again, it's eager, and I appreciate that it's willing to go to those higher RPMs, but it just means that this little thing just always feels like it's slightly out of breath, and it's just always, you know, a couple steps behind, you know, where it should be. Now, Subaru has said that a hybrid version is coming. They've promised that. We don't have any details on that as of the time we're filming this here in June of 2024. But I think hopefully the hybrid will be an improvement as far as performance goes, in addition to giving you hopefully better fuel economy as well. We'll see how Subaru plays the hybrid. I wouldn't expect anything super fast, but, you know, it's fine. I think, you know, most people that buy these don't care about the performance. It's about an 8.3 seconds 0 to 60, also one of the slowest numbers in that in this segment as well. So, you know, definitely one of the worst performers in a straight line, but again, I think the average buyer doesn't care, and so I think it's going to be totally fine acceleration for the average driver. But, you know, for anyone that's an enthusiast or hoping for a little bit more, there's other options out there that are better, that are going to give you more power, whether it's hybrid versions like we see with, you know, the RAV4, CR-V, things like that, or even just the turbo that you get like with the Mazda CX-5 and CX-50. But other things here, so this road does generate some more road noise. And you can hear some road noise, but honestly, I mean, it does seem like it is an improvement. I just had, I think it was last year, a Crosstrek Wilderness of the last generation. Definitely, I mean, that one had the knobbier tires and stuff, but I think, you know, compared to other Subarus even, this definitely feels a little more refined. I know for even like the new 2024 Impreza and Crosstrek, those definitely felt a little noisier. So I think this is a nice step up in refinement over those lower Subarus for sure. Also, one thing that's worth noting though about the refinement is the stop-start system in these. Stop-start is standard, and you can turn it off, but it automatically reactivates itself every time you get in and start this vehicle up. So it's gonna be something you either have to hit it all the time if you don't like it, or you're gonna have to just live with it. It is a little bit of a rougher stop-start system, and it's just not as seamless as some of the others that do it a little bit better. I mean, it's commendable to, you know, save some gas there whenever you're idling and stuff, but I just wish that there was a little bit of polish there. But outside of that, the powertrain is pretty smooth, all things considered. But we're coming up with some corners here I always take, and let's see how the Forester handles. So, diving in, it's okay. It's fine. I'd say it's fairly flat, and you have the boxer engine, which does help you with having a lower center of gravity, despite the fact that this has 8.7 inches of ground clearance still, which is a little bit higher than most of the others. Not by a huge amount, but, you know, by a couple, you know, tenths of an inch there, it is a little bit higher. And I mean, it's honestly pretty dynamic for this segment. I think there are some others that aren't quite as eager with the handling, but I also think there are others that do handle better than this does. One thing is, this is one of the lightest in its segment, and you can certainly feel that lightness. These only weigh about 3,656 pounds. The way this one is with the sport trim might be a little bit higher for the upper trims, but you know, I think the thing that I notice is, even though it's light, even though, you know, it's fairly happy to dive in, you just don't have much grip from. Even though this one has these 19-inch wheels, these Bridgestone tires just squeal, and they squeal early. Most of the vehicles in this segment, when I'm going around these corners, aren't putting up, you know, quite as much protest as this is. And so, you know, it's one of these vehicles, like, it's okay to be pushed, but it honestly doesn't feel like it likes to be pushed. And it's just a shame, because the way Subaru has set their vehicles up for everything here, really in the 2020s and even earlier, it's all set up for comfort, and that's fine. They're going for mass market appeal, and, you know, they've made that clear a long time ago. They're not going for a sporty Forester here, despite the fact that it says Sport on the side. I mean, as far as the Sport goes, by the way, the unique touch that you get here for this suspension, they did actually have a different suspension in it, but it's 3% stiffer dampers. 3%. They were so nervous about making it too stiff that they only could go 3% stiffer on the dampers. And so that just perfectly, to me, illustrates exactly how conservative they've played everything with the Forester. They don't want to upset anybody. They don't want to make it, you know, anything that's going to be obnoxious from a ride standpoint. Even in the Sport trim, they can only go 3% stiffer. And I mean, it's a super smooth ride. And again, if smoothness is your priority, again, you could even go for a non-Sport and get 3% smoother ride, I guess, with the you know, slightly less stiff dampers. But I honestly even wonder how they were able to justify doing different dampers if the difference is only 3%. But that's the choice they made. Whatever. I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to pretend like I could, you know, set this car up better. But, you know, it's just worth noting that all the competitors are going to feel a little more sure-footed, a little more lively, just a little better feeling. The steering is kind of dead in this. And there's some that are really exciting in this segment. You know, the Mazda CX-5, I still love the way that thing handles. It's a lot of fun to push around corners, actually. I was having a good time. I just had a CX-5 Turbo not too long ago, and I really actually enjoyed pushing that around corners. And this, I can't say that for this, you know. I mean, you do have the symmetrical all-wheel drive as standard, which is, you know, a mechanical all-wheel drive system. Does a good job. You have the X mode, drive modes here, with one having like the deep snow mode to give you a little more wiggle room there, and then another one. But even those drive modes can only be accessed, I believe, under 25 miles per hour. And driving here at 40 miles per hour, they're all grayed out. I can't even play with that. So the only drive mode here is this, you know, intelligent and the sport sharp thing, which barely does anything. And that is another area. You know, a lot of other competitors do give you a lot of drive modes, so you can have it custom suited for exactly what's, you know, scenario you're in, and it works at all speeds, you know. So another area where I just feel like Subaru just doesn't do a very good job matching the competitors these days with the features offered, with the, driving dynamics, just all these things. I feel like Subaru could just do more than they do, unfortunately. But again, it's a fine ride. It's fine handling for the average commuter, but just don't expect anything more out of it. And now we're out on the highway here in the Forester, and I have the adaptive cruise control system on, and Subaru's EyeSight system, the newest version of EyeSight, is standard here on all 2025 Foresters. That means you get adaptive cruise control as standard. That used to be, a high dollar option. Now Subaru's had a standard for a few years now, but just great that you have that, because it is still something that others don't make standard, and so it is notable that that is standard here. But then some other stuff that like other companies make standard, you don't get standard here in this. So for example, blind spot monitoring isn't even available here. It doesn't come standard until the sport trim. It's available on the premium, and I don't think it's even available on the base trim, versus like Mazda gives you blind spot monitoring standard across the board on CX-5. So there's some give and take here. Now as far as how the system works, I will say that they have refined the EyeSight system so it is less annoying than before. There's less beeps and less alerts than there were in the past, and that is a huge improvement, because this week I've actually been able to leave on the lane keep assist system so that it didn't illuminate the orange warning light the entire time I was driving. And I was able to leave it on, and it didn't go off or annoy me during the week, which is notable, because it used to be like non-stop annoyances. And also we just went around that corner there, and it did a really good job of giving me steering assistance. I have my hands on the wheel here, which it still is a hands-on system, but it's able to give you a lot of that assistance and correction there, and is a nice little extra thing to have when you're on a long trip. And so it's always done a pretty good job with that in my experience these past few years with Subaru. But it's just worth noting it continues to work well here. Other stuff you get as standard, you get automatic emergency braking as standard, lane keeping assist, all of that, it all comes standard here. The rear automatic braking, though, that is something that you do have to add on as an extra cost option here on the Sport. That is available on the higher trims as standard as well. And now on this corner, going around a little bit, it is a little bit sawing back and forth, and it's assertive still, and now we're slowing down for some traffic here, and it's all pretty smooth with that. But I'd say the steering assist, it's good. I like the fact that it doesn't cross over lanes like Hyundai and Kia systems sometimes like to do. It's a safer feeling system to me, but still I don't think it's one of the best out there. I think Honda does a better steering assist, as do a couple of the others. But yeah, it's not bad though, for sure, and it's a nice thing to have, especially since it's standard. You're not paying extra for it, and so totally fine in my book. And also just on the highway here, again, you hear a little bit of road noise and tire noise, a little bit of wind noise too, but honestly not too bad either here. So I think it'll be a nice highway cruiser, for this segment of vehicle, but it is definitely not the quietest. That is another area where the CX-5 takes the cake, having some of the quietest interiors in this segment. And so if you want to have a more luxurious feeling interior, CX-5 is going to be the way to go. Fuel economy for the 2025 Forester is 25 mpg in the city, 32 on the highway, and 28 combined. And in my driving here, I've been getting about 24.5 mpg. That was mostly around town, kind of suburban driving, a little bit of idling, a little bit of highway. So typically I do get 1 to 2 mpg less than the city rating, so I'm actually only about a half mpg less than the city rating, so I guess I'm slightly performing better than what I see on average from other vehicles that I drive on these same kind of roads. 24.5 mpg is fine, but it's unremarkable, and it's just going to come down to how badly you want good fuel economy, because there are other options out there that do better fuel economy, and then even offer hybrid or plug-in hybrid versions that get even better fuel economy yet. If none of that stuff bothers you, just know 24.5 is what I got here. Your mileage will of course vary depending on a variety of factors. But the last thing to mention here though is pricing and how it compares to the competition. So pricing is also an interesting case where it's, not the worst price, but it's also not the best value in this segment, in my opinion, either. So as far as pricing goes, this Sport version is $37,590 as tested. Of course, you can go down to lower trims and get these for less. You can also go up in a fully loaded version. One of these will come in just under $42,000. And so, that's okay, but again, there's some others that do undercut this. And my favorite in this segment is actually the one that is I think the oldest in the segment now at this point, but is still the best in my opinion, and is also cheaper, and that is the Mazda CX-5, and also the CX-50, which is also very similarly priced. Both of those are about $1,500 to $1,600 cheaper than this, yet they give you more features, more luxury, more refinement, more power, just basically more of pretty much everything. Now, I will say that maybe this has a slightly bigger back seat and maybe a slightly bigger cargo area. You know, you're going to have to just run the numbers and try it out as far as, you know, how you're going to actually use that space. But, you know, the CX-5 is just, I love it. Again, I just spent a week with one not too long ago and came away still so impressed. It's a vehicle that is aging very gracefully. It still has physical controls for stuff, and nice controls at that. You know, window switches that feel nicer than this Subaru and stuff. Just so many nice things about the CX-5, and you get it all at a discount. And there's the option for a turbo version if you want more power, something Subaru has been stubbornly leaving out of the Forester lineup since a couple of generations ago. And so I think CX-5, just all day, every day, I'd rather have that for less money and have a way better vehicle in my opinion. So kind of an open shut case in my mind as far as the top competitor there. Now, as far as other competitors, if the Mazda isn't your cup of tea, you can also get the Hyundai Tucson for a similar discount, and that gives you all the same kind of stuff for roughly about $1,400 less. Just another one though that, you know, does come in at very similar pricing, as does the Kia Sportage, and that gives you, for example, like I think cooled seats in that SX Prestige trim that's comparable to this from a pricing standpoint. That gives you heated steering wheel, the bigger screens, better technology. I'd rather have a Sportage all day, every day for basically the same money as well. And again, you get more features. You also get the longer 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty with the Kia and the Hyundai. The versus, you know, no complimentary maintenance here in this, no warranty longer than 5 years and 60,000 miles for the powertrain. And so, you know, you have that coverage with those others that you don't have here with this. And then if you also want like some other more desirable nameplates in this segment, you know, we have the Honda CR-V. A comparable CR-V, the EXL trim, is only about $800 more expensive as well. And that gives you the turbocharged punch that I was talking about earlier that is great. You have much nicer materials on the inside, and just an interior that, again, I would much rather have the CR-V over the Forester from a driving dynamic standpoint, from an interior nicety standpoint, and that also is a fantastic amount of cargo space, tons of you know, backseat space. And so that's another one that I would definitely rather have over this, even if there is a slight price premium. Also, you can get like a RAV4, which for about $1,200 more than this, so it is a price premium, but the RAV4 gives you a heated steering wheel at that price point, and you have Toyota's legendary reliability as well, and also about 20 more horsepower too, which is, you know, notable. And you also have a regular 8-speed automatic in that RAV4 versus the CVT here in this. And so the RAV4 is also another one that I would really consider, because they hold their value a little bit better, I think. And so yes, you might pay a little bit more up front, but you're going to have a vehicle that will probably last longer, and also will probably do better on the resale side as well. And so just another very strong one worth considering. There is a bunch of other competitors as well if you want like the extra bonus space of a tiny third row. Mitsubishi and Volkswagen both offer that, but I really like the Outlander. But you know, I just feel like that's, again, about $1,200 or so more expensive than this. I'm not sure if it's worth that price premium unless that third row is valuable to you. But you know, and there's a bunch of other competitors, but I think that those ones I mentioned are the strongest ones that are worth considering and cross-shopping with this. And it's safe to say I basically would rather have any of those over this. They all are more exciting to drive. They're all more satisfying to drive. I'd say that most of them have better tech and better styling, which again is subjective, but you know, just to me, there's just not much of a case here for the Forester, and it's a bummer, because, you know, Subaru does have some fun stuff in their lineup still, and I think that clearly these sell very well. So, you know, what I'm saying here could be completely irrelevant to a lot of people, and they still just love it because it's just a Subaru, or they love all the glass in here, or, you know, whatever other reason people have for going for Subarus in such large numbers these days. It's soft, it's comfortable, it's unoffensive. If that sounds great to you, go for it. But I think all the others also are still very smooth, very comfortable, while still giving you nicer interiors, more exciting driving dynamics, and still having great comfort, and you know, just very nice vehicle setups as well. So that's all of my thoughts here on the Forester. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Subaru for providing me here with the Forester to review for you guys today. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.